back to Laserpound Games. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Wildfire Werebear Druid in Diablo 2 MeXL Sigma. And also I just want to let everyone know that my Discord is now open for everyone to join. Link is in the description if you want to come hang out and play games with all the other penguins. Go ahead and click that link. Alright, so this build is going to be a bit more complicated than some of the other builds I've done so far. Definitely had to do a lot more playtesting, so it might be a little bit of a longer video, so just just telling you guys ahead of time here. But we're going to go ahead and get into the skills first. Okay, so looking at our reward skills, we're going to max out our symbiosis and max out your life shield. Although I just got a new charm, so I haven't actually use another belladonna to put in my last skill point to life shield, but you want to max that out. Same with well, fairy fire you don't necessarily need to max out, you just have to get it up to 20% chance to avoid damage, so just put points into it until you see it reach 20. I believe it's going to be around 14 or 15 skill points into that one. For Werebear, we're going to take a look at that one now. I've only got one in Werebear Morph, and you guys are going to see why after, because we're not really worried about the max physical damage at all. And you'll see what happens with Wildfire and why that is. You're still going to get the transformation with 2,500 max life and the bonus strength and vitality of 38% right now for me, but it's basically going to get diminishing returns really quickly, so if you put more skills in it, it's not really going to help this build out very much. I got one in Rend, and then also we maxed out Wildfire. It's our main attack. You'll see it's going to do some crazy damage. And then we got Circle of Life. Here you can put in I put in 2 because it was just basically a bit of faster hit recovery, and the attack rating is not going to matter at all for this build, so you really can just put 1 point in here, and then I put 1 point in idle for now, and you're going to come back to this. You might want to put a few more in idle later depending what you're doing with your minions. So the last row of points we're going to deal with is the corruption tree, and now this is going to be where we're going to add the bonuses to our symbiosis. Okay, so we're mostly focusing on Elven-Song first for our chance to avoid damage, max 20%. So we're gonna want to get that up to 20% as well, and then we're gonna get the acid fiends for faster regeneration of minimum 20. So you'll see here that I ended up maxing out almost onto Elven-Song as well, just to make sure. I believe it's around 27 or 28 you're going to max out your 20% avoidance anyway. Then you don't really want to put any more skills past that. Also, you just put 1 into poison, or I have a bit more in poison flash, but you don't need to, and you'll see why in a second. So I got 1 in plague avatar, 1 in mythal. This is just a cooldown reduction. It's still an ability we can use, because we're going to be doing elemental damage, but basically, if you don't have enough fire pierce, which is my resist to fire to your enemies, you're going to want to try to make it up with mythal. If not, like, I usually don't even use it unless there's a boss. And then acid fiends, I ended up mostly trying to max it out, but I think you only need about 21 points into it to get your max regeneration. After that, you're going to have a few extra points to spend. So I put my extra points in Acid Fiends and Poison Flash. So obviously Poison Flash is going to give your Acid Fiends extra HP basically as a synergy. So you'll see it's 15% life per base level. But you don't, if you want to go the other way with it and use Idle for more defense bonus and resist, so you can reduce the cooldown of idle by putting more points into it. So you can either put them in acid fiends and poison flash, or you can put them all in idle if you want, just depending on the way you want to go with your build and what gear you have at the time. But that's it for that. For stat points, you're going to end up putting most of your points in strength and a bit in vitality. The really good thing about this is because the way Wildfire works, it's actually a spell. So it's really weird because it's a spell that's a melee attack. So we don't have to worry about attack rating at all. This is going to hit no matter what. You don't have to worry about it. So we don't care about dexterity at all. And then you'll notice in the skill tree, when you go to Wildfire, that it's going to get a strength increased damage bonus. So if you want to pump up the damage of your Wildfire, which you really don't have to do, especially if you're dying, you could drop most of your points into Vitality. I got to the point where I'm trying to basically, because you're a druid, you're going to get a ton of life through being a bear and your life shield anyway. So at this point, I dropped most of my points into strength to increase my damage by a little bit. And now here's where it's going to get a little bit more complicated with the gear as well. So the only real, there's two items that, one of them you really need, which is this. So it's going to be a Zisrune item. I think this is one of the first ones I've used in a build so far. And this one's going to be very important for Bear because it's going to give you an extra 10% chance to avoid damage and bring up your avoidance to 50% when you stack it with the other 20 and 20. And this is going to mitigate a ton of damage, especially since we're using a two-hander and we're unable to block. I actually made it with increased attack speed jewel, so you can see that it's got an extra 45% attack speed on top of the base 50 just this helmet has, and you'll see there's 95% attack speed. Attack speed is going to be really good, one of our main stats we're looking for. And then I think I made the jewels with knee rune to get extra life on hit and mana not on hit, life on attack and mana attack. And you'll see like why too in a second, like when we're using it. I'm using a SU Great Axe here, Elder Law, which has got some special bonuses to Wildfire and Idol of Skull's Glen. You can probably just use a fascinating crafted axe, because again, you're not going to worry about the weapon damage at all in this build. So basically, just you're trying to add as much attack speed on your weapon. So weapon attack speed with the bear is priority on the weapon for sure. You can see here I have 180% attack speed. The weapon base had 60. I added 90% in jewels, so 6 jewels with 15% attack speed, and then I added another 30% with orbs as well to just crank it up as high as you can go on your weapon, and it's actually going to help you a lot out. This one actually has spell damage jewels in it, so there's spell damage made with Zod. Then I also waited till I got these, so they have attack speed, fire damage or spell damage, and then if as a bonus, if you can get chance for uninterruptible attack, that's just an extra bonus, and you can stack that on some of your jewels throughout the rest of your gear. And if you can get over 50% chance of uninterruptible attack, it kind of just helps out while you're attacking as well and trying to get max frames with attack speed with the breakpoints. For armor here, I'm using Elemental Disciple, which is going to give us just a bunch more attack, like basically spell damage to fire, a bit of only -5 to enemy like resistances, but then we're gonna get 4 to druid skills, and then just a bunch of other nice stats. I'm not really too worried about the armor, although I did increase it as much as I could throughout the rest of my gear, because again, we don't have a shield. Amulet, I'm just using a rare +4 with some -fire, and added a bit of fire spell damage to it. And you can see it's only level 1/8. I haven't actually finished it off yet to see what I totally need. Probably going to end up adding some mana regeneration after that as well. But you want to make sure that you max out all your resistances. So depending on when you're changing your gear out, that's what I've been doing. I haven't finished off the amulet yet until it's ready. Here I have for rings just 2 rare rings plus 1 all skills. and as much minus fire resistance to your enemies as you can get. And plus fire damage also is the best stats you're going to be looking for your rings. The belt, I'm using Ashira's armor, which is just going to give us some physical resist. So we're going to get 10% physical off this belt, and then a bit of extra fire damage as well. And then so this is an interesting way to look at it. So since I dumped all my points into strength, right, because it is a spell, and you can go two different ways with this. So I went the strength way, basically strength factor. But obviously, if you wanted to do energy factor, you could go that way with it as well, if depending on the gear if you're just crafting or the way you're going with it. So you could actually not even bother putting too many points in strength, dump it all in the energy, and then get a bunch of energy factor like crafted items, like with your armor and your gloves and your belt or something, and try to get your damage that way. But I had these gloves around, I hadn't used them, so I'm gonna get that big strength factor, and I'm gonna get some cast speed, which doesn't really affect the bear druid at all. $2 skills, and then a bunch of spell damage, obviously. And then again, I just added more jewel. This one I'd already capped out my attack speed, so this one is just gonna have more fire spell plus uninterruptible attack jewels. And that's pretty much it for the gloves. I mean, I definitely added some more armor to the three main ways you're getting your armor, or basically your chest, the helmet, and then it's going to be your boots. And then after that, you kind of get a little bit from the gloves and belt. I'm actually using Rodeo's Tramplers. So I had these boots for a while, and I was just like, who the hell can actually use these boots, right? You're like, you can only use melee summon support skills with these boots. But interestingly enough, Wildfire is a spell, and it lets you cast it because it is actually considered a melee spell. And that's the other thing too, where I added a bit of life on attack to the weapon, and you can use knee runes when you're crafting your jewels to get the life on attack and mana on attack, which will actually work with this. So percentage life leech does not work because it's actually a spell. It gets a little complicated with bears. So you can't use the percentage leech, but you can use the on attack to leech. So that's how you're going to try. And I mean, I don't have too much yet. As I level up, I'm going to also add more to increase my survivability, but also I have a ton of regeneration as well. You'll see there's another 100 on the axe, and then we're going to have a lot just for being a bear. But these boots are going to give us another one all skills, a bunch of extra movement speed, which is nice, and a lot of, I guess, negative pierce to our enemies. I added a bunch of raw runes in the boots to increase the enemy fire resist pierce even more, and I brought it up to around 100% pierce for fire. And I like to keep it around that. I think it's all right. You can get between 100 to 130. Some people will tell you to try to get up to 200 for like some of the bigger bosses, but at that point it's just not worth it in this build. You might as well just crank up your damage to something crazy. You can see Wildfire is doing like 190k here, but it's going to do even a bit more once I get my Acid Fiends out, that are going to give us a 29% elemental spell damage boost, and then another increase to our attack and movement speed by another 30%. So we're going to have a crazy amount of attack speed here, which the bear needs. And I know a lot of you have been requesting for me to try and test out some builds in Fotsonville, or something higher level, since I'm starting to get my characters a bit higher. I'm definitely going to end up doing a lot of builds that just can't. I mean, if they can only do cows, I'm still going to do them for fun, but I might be able to actually kill some stuff in Fots with this bear. So I'm going to definitely get my buffs going here. So Symbiosis and Fairy Fire, and then we're going to have to use Mark of the Wild once we get inside. Alright, okay. Well, they're going to cover the portal. Alright, so we're going to buff up. And the idea here is you want to basically summon ahead, and then hopefully your summons can actually take a bit of the damage, because we do have 50% avoidance and around 15k HP right now, but it's still, we're still going to take, as you can see, like when you start taking hits, you can definitely die really easily. But we'll see if I can kill one of the mini bosses as they stack up around me. Jeez. Yeah. So I definitely got a little bit overly aggressive there. Thing is too about the Druid Bear is it's just not very good for like basically multi-target, because you end up basically making this little like firewall almost that is very short range. So in FOTS, you can definitely run into some issues where you get surrounded and you're only basically killing one guy at a time. So you gotta watch where you're placing your minions with this build. Let's go there, and but once you close the distance on an enemy, you should be able to basically one or two shot them. If you can get close to them, they die. But the problem is actually closing the distance and not getting too aggressive. So make sure that you're getting your summons out so that the enemies are firing on your summons. Again, that's why I kind of went down the route of giving my summons a bit of extra health too, because if they don't have enough health, they kind of just die in one hit, and they're not really providing you what you need to close the gap on your enemies. You can see here too, there's sometimes the enemies will sit right in front of you, and they get this little dead spot in the fire where they're not taking damage. I don't want to get too overly aggressive here. You see here, my regen is very high anyway if you start running away, but you just can't. You can't just sit there and just let everything attack you, or they will kill you. But it's nice to just drop like a summon. I'm gonna get some more health pots. You drop a summon and then you run away, and they follow you, and then once they stack up close, you can just run in there and start mauling them all down. Also, you can use your idol as well during this. It's going to give you a bit of extra armor and physical resist and some more movement speed. So it's basically, you use it as like a gap closer, just another way to close the gap on your enemies, so that you can just get in there fast. But we already have enough movement speed. As long as you have your acid fiends out, and the rodeo boots are just going to give you a ton of extra movement speed already. So getting to your enemies should not be that bad. See if I can maul all these guys down. I'm gonna try and get the bait over there. Also, it becomes easier too when you're playing with other players that are like have any sort of HP boost. It's just gonna make your bear that much tougher. I mean, I could have definitely put more points in vitality. Because the strength really is not increasing your damage as much as you think it is. Like, so it helps. Also, it's not bad, but getting more vitality might be the way to go if you're dying, and then adjust as you level up and get a bit tougher and get more skill points into your life skills. All right, where's this mini boss? See if we can maul him down. Out of the way. Out of the way. Also, these guys are the toughest minions in FOTS until to deal with because they absorb fire. Alright, let's see if we can swing on these harpies. We're just gonna maul that boss, that mini boss down, and just absolutely tear him apart. And this is true for a lot of, like, for boss fights. You're gonna do a lot of damage, but you gotta just watch that the boss you're fighting doesn't have some sort of move to punish a melee character. But yeah, the bear was actually a lot of fun. Just got definitely a lot more complicated, and you're gonna need a bit more gear to make it work. But thanks for watching this, and we'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone who made it to the end of the video. This is LaserPan Games, reminding you to smash that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps out. And if you're looking for even more content, check out my Patreon here, where I post exclusive video content every month, and you'll have access to all of that.